Most people have always felt that they're not empowered. And our nation, they didn't know how to take that out and to bring it to a conclusion. And still it's the same. You see, we all focus on the presidency. We say the presidency powers are too much, but we don't focus on parliamentary system. Why should a member of parliament run consecutively for 20 years? Why can't you also restrict their terms of office? We don't focus on the attorney general. Why can an attorney general continue serving in a government, in different governments, whereas in one government that he served, there were torture chambers. There are young people who died in it. So it is a social, economic, political injustice that had happened to that nation many, many years ago that was coming about. And two, it was ethnicity. First, there was a call to end social injustice. And two, there was ethnicity. Political leaders, led by the opposition and the government, went back to their tribesmen and told them it is time for war. So go out there, fight your brother and sister, own what you have. We have on record a politician who said that they want to make the Kikuyu lie low like an antelope. We have politicians both in PNU side who said that they're going to show off the other tribes that they're not part of this nation. And so ethnicity played a role to the violence, because every political leader in the current setting, and I'm very boldly when I'm saying this, every political leader was not sincere to change the social injustice. Instead, they wanted to use the injustice as a platform to get power, but not to address the social injustice and reverse it. And that's what has brought the violence.
Was the foundation caught up in the violence in any way?
We actually lost 2 people in the violence. We had one of our centers banned, and our summit for this year, last year we had a summit in 2007. We called it the Africa Resurgence Summit, which we brought around 3,000 young people in Nairobi, Kenya. But this year we could not do it because of the violence, and so we canceled all our activities. And not only the foundation, most people were. We've had women who've been raped. We've had children, 3 months children, thrown in a sewer because they belong to the wrong tribe. We've had people's houses touched down. We've had a lot of things happen. As I speak, we have 628 of our own people who've died in the election skirmishes. And we also have 278, 616 people who've been displaced by the elections violence. And though it has not affected my foundation directly, but the mere fact that I'm a Kenyan, it does affect me. It does affect the work of the foundation as we go on speaking about nonviolence and peace.
What is your purpose for coming to the United States?
Well, the Gandhi Foundation has bestowed me a great honor by the mere fact of my work in Kenya, and they have bestowed me the honor of being their goodwill ambassador for peace in Kenya. And that is one of the things that brought me to the United States. I was coming to receive the award. And secondly, what has brought me to the United States is to try to raise the consciousness with my Kenyan brothers, because in this part of the world where the freedom of speech is respected. In Kenya, we've had the government banned live coverage, and those are the things that the government needs to be told to stop doing. But we've also had the politicians tell their people that let's change this nation to be like Cote d'Ivoire until they listen. We've had politicians make some derogatory statements like, the more the blood flows, the better, so that they see that we mean business. And that's what brought me to the United States, to try to tell people in the United States to stop looking at the story in Kenya and sympathizing on one side. It is better they tell the people in Kenya, stand up and tell your leaders to go to shame, because both sides are insincere about changing Kenyan destiny. If they are sincere, the opposition will not have taken an oath in parliament recently, which will give them the salary. They'll have said, no, we are not going to take the oath until the elections problem is solved. But they did, and immediately they are on payroll. The government side is not sincere. Why? Because the president could not have appointed a cabinet until they negotiated with the opposition. And so this is not an issue of post-election. It's not an issue of rigging. It's an issue of jealous, it's an issue of gluttony, it's an issue of power. And so it will be simplicity to think that our leaders are out there trying to fight for justice. They're not. Our leaders are selfish and gluttonous. They're out there to gain more power for themselves. And that's what I've come to do in the United States, to try to make the Kenya community in the United States, the people of the United States, to understand that our nation is at stake. And it is wrong for the world community to side with any of the two leaders when they're trying to bring change to the nation. It's important that they go out to the grassroots and empower the Kenyan people to bring the leaders to an accountable level to the people they serve.
What can Kenyans living in the United States do?
One of the things that I've actually requested them to do is to make sure that they make a strong statement back to their leaders at home. Most Kenyan community living abroad have their leaders' mobiles, the cell phones, they have their contacts. And what I told them today in my speech is that call back your leader at home and tell them end the violence. And not only that, call your relatives, tell them you can't throw a Luo because of his tribal extraction. You cannot throw out a Kikuyu because of the tribal extraction. Because the people who are suffering in Rift Valley, their problem was they voted for the wrong candidate. The people who are suffering in central Kenya, their problem was they voted for the wrong candidate. And it's high time we go back and tell them, you exercise democracy, which was right, and therefore go out there and stand for your right. In American civil rights, the leadership did not stay at their homes. They knew it was safe to do so. But they moved out there and they said that America's twice of thee we sing, the star banner of America. And they said, America, we will make sure that you listen to your brothers. And that's how racism ended in America. That's how Jim Crow laws stopped becoming order of the day. And that's why I've been here to tell the Kenya community, call back your relatives at home. Don't organize how they will come here as refugees. Tell them to stand up for their rights and ask their leaders to be accountable to their people.
What sort of hope do you have for Kenya now that it's in this crisis?
Well, like the speaker said today, Kenya is in turmoil, but I refuse to believe, just like Martin Luther King, that the Bank of Justice no longer have funds to give to its people. I refuse to believe that the springs of peace can no longer bring fresh water to bring back the peace. I refuse to believe that the Holy Spirit of the Pentecost cannot come back and bring peace that we need in our nation. And so my message to my Kenyan people has been that hope is not yet lost. Although we have timidity, although we have despair, although we're in a state of disillusionment, what we have to understand is that it is always darkest before light falls. It's always darkest before you get to a new transition. And so Kenya is going through a transition now. What we were fighting about was just democracy in the shows. Now we are getting real democracy. And because it's so dark, because sometimes the evening lasts too long, we have to understand that it is only 3 o'clock, before 6 o'clock, that we have the most danger at the night. And so I've asked my brothers in Kenya, I've asked my sisters in Kenya, I've asked everybody in Kenya to make sure that this time they don't lose hope. They keep the fire burning. They ignite the candles of peace to ensure that everybody knows Kenya is bigger than any of us and we can stand for it again.
Thank you very much for this interview and congratulations on your award.
Thank you so much.